You have likely heard the term Moloch before, and you might imagine a creature or some kind of a god hiding behind that term, but you're not quite sure, right? So what can we expect from this Dutch horror movie that is called Moloch? Will that be a monster flick? Will that be a ghost movie? Or will it be horror at all? If you'd like to know more, then stick with me for this short review video. When Beatrix was a little girl, her grandmother was killed in the room right above her while she was hiding in the pantry, with her grandmother's blood seeping through the ceiling and splattering all over her. Now 30 years have gone by and she lives with her daughter at her mother's and father's place, after her career as a musician came to a stop when her husband and musical partner died early. Living in the northern part of the Netherlands, where there are many dangerous bogs that might become death traps for people, there is an old legend that makes sure people are not wandering out into the bog. It is called the Legend of Bakker, the story of an evil lord who was having an affair with one of his servants, a woman named Bakker, whom he got pregnant. Once the lord's bitter wife Helen found out, she claimed that her husband was spelled and Bakker must be a witch. Sentenced to burn at the stake, she prays to God. But another deity is answering, the heathen god Moloch, the god of children's sacrifice. His offer to Bakker was that if she sacrificed herself to him and gives him the soul of her unborn child, then she would be able to take over Helen's body and reign on her behalf. With the mark of Moloch burnt into her forehead, Bakker slits her own throat in front of everyone, soon after taking over Helen's body, which, after one last spasm, casts out Helen's soul. From that point on, Bakker in Helen's body was ruling the land in a kind way, celebrated as a hero of a people to this day, while Helen's soul was damned to wandering the bog for eternity, whispering her lies into the ears of everyone who would listen. So far the legend goes. But of course Beatrix doesn't believe in any of this. This is until some very old bodies are found in the bog, leading to an archaeological team led out by Jonas, a scientist from Denmark, whom Beatrix befriends, and together they look deeper into what might connect the legend to those bog bodies. Along the way they might even find out why some people, against their nature, broke into Beatrix's family's house and tried to kill them, and why those people also start digging their own holes somewhere in the bog. Did they hear Helen's whispers? And how does Beatrix's supposed family curse plays into this? If it even does. I will stop the synopsis here, but will give you a little bit of a deeper insight in the spoiler zone at the end of the video, if you are interested in knowing what is going on in this movie. This Dutch production comes along with some nice special effects, with a very dense and thrilling atmosphere, got really solid acting in all important roles, including some weird rural characters, and present in Beatrix and Jonas a pair of really attractive and likable leads. The story is quite interesting and I would say different enough from the stuff you usually see in a horror movie, so that most fans will really enjoy this stint of a little known monster, or in this case god, Moloch. There are some minor tricks and misdirects, but mainly the story is quite straightforward. If you understand the ending, highly depends though if you are paying attention in the middle of a movie when the legend of Bakker is being explained to us. If you miss one single sentence, you might misunderstand the ending. You will still understand what is happening, but you will likely not understand why and who is involved. And if you are not sitting in a movie theater but sitting at home and you did not catch everything, make sure to stop and rewind to make sure you really get it all. While you really have to pay attention to make sure you get this part, the solution of the movie, the end gag so to speak, is rubbed in very solidly, in fact being explained to you or highly hinted at least 3 times before the 4th time at the very end is literally laying it out for you, so that nobody is missing it. I would have wished they didn't overdo it in the very end, but instead would make sure that you really get this part in the middle that you can really easily overlook, or in this case overhear/overread. And one quick call out, I was a little bit surprised about the subtitles, because Beatrix often calls her daughter her little monster, at least according to the subtitles. But you can clearly hear her say Sonnenstrahl, which means sunbeam. So why go that different direction with the subtitles? But it doesn't make a big difference for the plot. And one thing was really hilarious in that movie, because in one scene there is a little boy who has a vision that centers around Beatrix. Meeting her in an elevator, he shares his vision with her, literally, so she can actually see what's going on. And then when the little boy is crying and falling to pieces, she is just leaving the elevator, heading out as if she has nothing to do with this. That was both hilariously irresponsible, but also completely human. But let's get into the rating. As you have heard, I really enjoyed the movie, and it was at least something a little bit different than the usual fare you get in a horror or monster movie. If this even is a monster movie. It really depends on what you consider Moloch to be, I guess. The atmosphere was great, the technical merits were solid, the music was also great, by the way, and really played nicely into the atmosphere. And like I mentioned before, my only main points of critique would be that they overdid it in the end with the explanation and did a little bit too little in the middle to make sure nobody is missing the main point. However, the latter I cannot really count against the movie, because you are supposed to really pay attention to understand everything, so this should not be counted much against the movie. With that being said, I think the movie is a little bit better than just good, with room for improvement, yet I cannot say that most things were done very well, so it's somewhere in the middle between 7 and 8, which translates to a 7.5 points in my book. A really nice score for a solid, independent production from the Netherlands. But now, if you don't want to get spoiled but enjoyed this video so far, please like it now before you leave. And if you are no subscriber yet, maybe consider to change that. By also hitting the notification bell, you will get a heads up for most of my new videos. But now, if you don't mind spoilers or have already watched the movie, please follow me into the spoiler zone. Okay, I will try to make this quick. Of course, the family curse and the legend are connected quite directly. So here's what happened. 30 years ago, when her grandmother died, she slit her own throat, just like Feike did, because Feike was inhibiting her body. By killing and thus sacrificing herself, she lets the soul or spirit of Feike go from her body into the body of her daughter. So basically the mother of Beatrix that we see for the whole movie is not really her mother, but Feike possessing that body. As a result, the souls of the people whose body are being possessed are roaming the bog, and those are the whispers that you might hear if you wander around there. In the boy's vision that he shared with Beatrix, he used the words "Nu a morit", which is Romanian and translates to "she never died", by which he means that her grandmother actually never died because her soul is still alive, though her body was stolen years before and she has since been wandering the swamps. The vision was meant to warn her that someone is coming to get her, which is her mother, because her mother is implanting Feike's soul in her, while at the end of the movie, Beatrix's soul is being cast out like all the others before her. This all of course is because Beatrix and her family line are the direct descendants of Helen. And even though Feike is still celebrated as a hero to this day, she turns out to be the villain of the movie, because now she doesn't do any good anymore. She is just looking into prolonging her own life by stepping from body to body roughly every 30 years, once there is a new daughter in place that she can later take control over if her current body grows too old. There are really a lot of hints to that solution. First of all, the revelation that all the bog bodies are related, but from different periods in time. Then there is a scene where Beatrix's dad sees the soul of his own wife wandering around in the bog, even though he knows that she is alive and kicking and wandering around in the house, making him realize that she is actually possessed by someone else. Then there is the scene where Beatrix is having body tremors and her face is getting superimposed with Feike's face as the spirit changes bodies from her mother to her. Earlier in the movie it was shown that her mother also had a lot of tremors and shakes, so that was a pretty obvious hint to what just happened. But for everyone who has missed that, there is a third hint, because at the very end of the movie, Beatrix, now possessed by Feike, is brushing off all attempts of Jonas to make her live with him and get into a relationship. he is just brushed off, but earlier in the movie, Beatrix explained to him that her mother is always stealing those free sugar packs that lie around everywhere, though she doesn't even like sugar herself. Something that Beatrix also does at the end of a movie, which lets Jonas understand that something weird is happening here. If he is doing something about that is not clear, but at the very end of a movie, for everyone who still didn't get it, you actually see Beatrix's soul wandering towards the house, looking in and seeing Feika's ghost holding her daughter before the end credits set in. So every time someone came into the house and tried to kill them, they were all only after her mother, because they wanted to protect Beatrix from the circle to be continued, as all the whispers in the bog are just her predecessors who tries to warn people about this ongoing ritual. As a last call out, I would say the spirits made one mistake, and that was to whisper to Beatrix's dad. Because everyone who is being whispered to starts to act quite weird and not as themselves. But after seeing his wife's soul, I would say he would have known exactly what's going on and could have stopped it all, or at least explains it. But once he was whispered to, he was just walking around like a zombie, being all about just trying to kill his wife. Again, to protect his daughter, but nobody knew that. Beatrix even fought him off, not knowing that this will seal her own fate. Well, that's it. As you see, it's quite nice, but regarding those last callouts, if they would have done that a little bit slicker, then maybe the score would have been even higher. What do you think? Have you heard of this movie, or were you also at the movie festival and have watched it there? Or are you planning to rent it somewhere or stream it if it is being available? What have you expected to happen in a movie called Moloch? And have you ever seen Moloch in a different context? Then let me know in the comments. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching!